Over the years, I've been asked, how was I able to obtain all 19 years of my grandmother's psychiatric records from Pilgrim State Psychiatric Center? After all, she had been held there in the 1950s and 60s into the early 70s. I didn't request these records until the 90s. How is it that they exist? And the answer is simple, that Pilgrim State is a state center. So the records are kept for research purposes. So they have a lot of data that folks doing research are able to tap into. First, I wrote to them with proof of who I was and that I was related to my grandmother and that I had permission of her direct descendants, my mother and aunt, to access the records. And at first, they tried to satisfy me with 4 pages worth of records. And I wrote back and said, I want everything. They wrote back to me and told me it was going to cost $400 for copying fee. I think they thought that that would discourage me. And I just wrote them a check. And that got a phone call from the records manager there who asked what my reason was for wanting the records. And though I kind of felt it wasn't really her business, I did say, for the sake of ease, that I was doing research, medical research on my family, which is completely legitimate. And she did the right thing and sent them on to me. The stuff that I was able to obtain is just amazing. Now, here's an example of a letter that was in the records that my grandmother wrote from Pilgrim State Hospital, West Brentwood, New York, Sunday, April 20th, 1954. Honorable Dwight Eisenhower, White House, Washington, D.C. Dear Sir, you no doubt have noted that this letter comes from a mental institution. Previous to the time I came to this institution for help, I wrote several letters to the FBI in Washington, hoping to get some sort of investigation of my past life, which has been very strange indeed, and which has been the basis for my present illness. It is my conviction that both my grandparents were murdered, and that my cousin Beulah was also murdered. I saw it with my other eyes, and that I was given her identity and brought up in her place, in her name, and that I am in reality Gena Gladstone, the missing heir to the Scottish throne, that my foster grandfather was indeed the Kaiser who died not in Holland, but rather in the state of Kansas in 1931, and that Bert Hill, which was her father, died an innocent death in the electric chair in Colorado State Penitentiary, and that Zelma, her mother, second daughter of the Kaiser, committed all of the above murders. And I suspect several additional ones in order to cover up the first ones, etc. The complaints I have listed here are just a small part of the entire story. To the best of my knowledge, there has been no investigations by the government agents into this, and in my opinion, it's the business of the government. It's logical and proper duty to help me to straighten out these matters once and for all. I do not wish to be the Queen of Scotland, and I realize that I could not, even if I wished to. But neither do I wish my children to live as I have lived, in muddled confusion and fear. Any assistance that you may give me will be greatly appreciated. Sincerely, Beulah H. Jones. P.S. I wrote for you, but I guess the vote wasn't really legal, so you'll have to subtract 1 from your election record. B. Jones. Oh, she said she voted for him, but it wasn't legal. So my grandmother was genuinely ill. It would be easy to cook up a conspiracy theory, but she was an ill person. And, in the other record where I make the connection that it's very likely that her psychiatrist had sex with her, and that this all led to her lobotomy, this is a great injustice. And it's important to me that these details be shared with the world, and that she gets some justice in a life that didn't see a lot of justice. So thank you. Please hit subscribe, and I will be back soon with another video to give you some more details about the Lost Queen of Scotland.